It is time for another myth of American politics. The myth today that America is plagued by high crime rates, that they're either objectively high or that they've been rising over time. This is a myth that I think is incredibly important for its effect on politics in a number of different areas, which we'll turn to at the end of this segment. But I want to show you some actual data because I think a lot of people believe that crime rates are high, that they've been getting higher. I mean, if you were at the RNC the last time around, Donald Trump was giving you this idea that there are cities that are just war zones and he alone can save us from this post-apocalyptic hellscape. But with that chart, which thank you for putting that up, I should have turned to it faster. You can see that that's not actually the case. Violent crime per 100,000 residents has been dropping for literally decades. Violent crime per 1,000 people aged 12 and over. You want to cut out the younger ones, they're still committing crimes at high rates, but people who are 12 and older, dropping, property crimes dropping. And there's two different sources of information that are being given there. Using the FBI's numbers, the violent crime rate fell 48% between 1993 and 2016. Using the other data, 74%. So one of the reasons is the FBI includes murders in there. So we want to include both different sorts of crime, obviously. But in either case, crime has been falling fairly year by year in a recognizable pattern for a number of decades at this point. Now, there have been little minor spikes at some point, and we have to acknowledge that the data is only accurate as of 2016. So it's possible that over the past year or so, crime has actually risen. If I had to put my money on it, I would say that it probably has slightly. But what you are not seeing there is a constant problem over decades that we haven't made any inroads against and that we need politicians who are going to seriously address as if it's the biggest problem in our country. To focus on one particular sort and actually demonstrate some of what I was just talking about, let's go now to data on forcible rape rates over years. You can see that since the 90s, where they, like a lot of other crime, had been rising in the late 80s, they began dropping and dropping. Pet peeve, I absolutely despise charts that aren't grounded out at zero, so bear that in mind. And we have to acknowledge that the numbers have been going back up over the past few years, but still the trend is down fairly significantly and reliably over that time. But what's interesting is that while all of this is going on, year after year, cities and towns across America becoming marginally safer in terms of violent crime and property crimes on a regular basis, people's perception of that has not kept pace. So if we bring this up, you'll see public perception of crime rates. Again, on the right, that's the actual crime rate going down. The public perception saying there's more crime in the US than a year ago, that is the majority position almost every single year. And so not only do they believe that there's more crime than there was, that it's actually trending up, but they believe that there's a lot of crime, which is simply not borne out in the data. So why do we actually care about this? Why does that actually matter? So if you believe that crime is high, and especially if you believe that it's rising, how are you going to prioritize dealing with that crime wave with other issues? Okay, are you going to focus mentally on getting politicians that are good on workers' rights, on healthcare policy, on the environment? Or are you going to believe that dealing with this ever-increasing crime problem is the most important thing that a politician can do? And if, hypothetically, there was a party that attempts to pitch themselves as the only ones that can deal with this high crime, are you more likely to vote for those people possibly? Are they more likely to pitch their own ideologies through the lens of crime and the need to deal with it? I think that pretty clearly is the case that both of those are true. And so that means that the very candidates we get, especially from the Republican Party, but even from the Democrats in many cases, is going to be shaped by this misperception of the amount of crime that we're actually dealing with as a country. And when the challenges that we face in these other areas, in terms of dealing with our broken healthcare system, dealing with the effects of things like money and politics, climate change, these issues that people don't, unless they're pushed, they don't think about nearly as much. It means that we're not going to prioritize those things. We're not going to talk about them. There aren't going to be as many questions at debates, and the actual resources, once these people get in office, will not be allocated because people's perceptions of the actual level of threat from these different things is fundamentally flawed. And so this is a myth of American politics, even though it is not specifically about politics. It drives our politics, and it drives it perhaps off a cliff in a number of different areas. Thank you so much for watching that video. Before you move on to the next, I just wanted to let you know I have a documentary series out. It's called True North, available on Go90, and now you can help get it nominated for a Streamy as a documentary series. The link is down below. Thank you so much.